thanks so much for catching up with me again.
You're welcome.
First question. I understand your mum was an actress and she cast you in your first performance when you're only a tiny 5-year-old, and you developed your interest in drama from there. But I'm interested to find out how you got into music as more than just a listener.
It's funny because neither of my parents are musicians or very musical at all. But I was always, banging on things and singing to myself from the time I remember. I think I got my first, it was like a little kid drum kit, like a little tiny drum kit when I was probably about 6. And I'm an only child, so I spent a lot of time on my own. So I think I just used to set upstairs and bang on my kit and just kind of sing along and make up songs.
So from an early age, you had the rhythm from an early age by the sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I also know you're a big David Bowie fan, and was he sort of the driving influence? Because I know you taught yourself how to sing and play guitar, and was he sort of the driving influence when you were teaching yourself?
Definitely one of the absolutely major ones. Yeah, in every aspect. I mean, I always admired him because he's a true performer. I mean, not only is he a brilliant musician and singer, he's an actor, and he's an enigma. He's always changing, and so he's always been somebody I've definitely looked to as a huge influence for me, for sure.
Very visual guy too. So
yes.
and your stuff is very visual as well.
Yes.
The Auradrone videos and so forth. So you can kind of see the influence there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And when you sort of again, just going back to just how you got the musical bug, so to speak, what was it that drew you to the guitar as your instrument to learn?
I've always loved the guitar because it's the closest to the human voice, to me anyway. I think it's such a versatile instrument, and it's just, to me it speaks. I was always in love with it. And it's fun to play. I mean, it's such a fun instrument to play. You feel like you're always learning. I think it's part of the draw to it is that it's so challenging, because I think anyone who plays guitar knows that you can always be better, and there's always someone better, and there's always so much to learn with it. Such a versatile, beautiful thing. So I think, and it's also a great tool for songwriting. You can just pick it up anywhere. With a piano, you need a piano. You need to actually have a. Yeah, so guitar's great that way, because you can just, it's portable, and you can have a little guitar with you anywhere, whether you're on the road or visiting someone or traveling, you always can have a guitar with you and write with it. So that was part of it.
Okay. Just again, apologies for the guitar thing, but just, you being growing up and developing your musical ability through obviously your voice and playing guitar, I think there's a lot of different genres that you could have finished up with, and it's just really interesting that the genre that you're in now, with the modern electronica type sound, you could have gone a lot of different ways. And I'm just interested to, as a musician learning to sing and play guitar, that you actually finished up in the genre that you're in.
Yes, I know. It's interesting. I mean, I'm a rock girl at heart. I love rock music. I grew up on rock music. I grew up on British rock and American rock. So I'll always have a place in my heart for just really traditional classic rock and modern rock. But part of what I think drew me to electronic music was also my background in dance. From the time I was a kid, when I was doing theater, I was always doing musical theater, so it was song and dance, and then I went through my rave phase, my teenager rave phase, and I think I was hooked on dance music, because that's when it was really breaking huge. So many great electronic acts came out between the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was just, and also the technology. I think it was a natural progression for me, being someone who's, trained in dance and, always loved going to clubs and, always just loved the beat. I think it was just a natural progression. I became fascinated with, I started working with people who were definitely, a little further along in it than I was. So I kind of watched them and learned a lot, actually, and started to pick it up myself. But it's interesting because I think a lot of my music is definitely electronic, but I don't think I'll ever lose the organic edge. I still love my live drums and guitars and bass. I like to blend the two because I have respect for both genres, but for what I do, I don't know, I think they can work together so nicely.
Yeah, the acoustic drums and guitar are a big part of your live show as well. So that's
yes.
That's sort of pretty obvious, that influence there.
Yes.
Just a question on Whitelite Britelite. Straight away after you released that debut album, Whitelite Britelite, very quickly there was Whitelite Britelite rehabilitated with, I think there was about 7 songs that were remixed.
Yes.
Did you always have that envisaged to do a remix version of your debut album straight away, or did it just kind of happen out of circumstance?
I've always loved dance mixes, of course, going to clubs, but I think it kind of happened really organically. I had a lot of artists that approached me and wanted to do remixes of the tracks, and so I was like, I'm always one for collaboration, so I'd say, sure, here, I'll give you some stems and see what you can come up with. And so there it is. They kind of, several people coming at me at once, it did happen on its own. And I just put it out there and see what came back, and they came back with some pretty cool stuff. In fact, one of the remixers ended up being my collaborator on the second album. So it was Fred from Strasbourg. He did a remix for me, and it just we both have our favorite bands, very similar, Nine Inch Nails and Massive Attack and all that. And actually, that's what ended up shaping the sound of the second album. So he started out just doing an Auradrone remix for Rehabilitated.
Just while we're just picking up on your theme about last year's release, Bleeding Edge, it's definitely it has a lot darker sound to it than Whitelite Britelite. And was that sort of intentional while you were writing it, or did it just kind of was it a deliberate thing for you, or did it just sort of evolve, through working with different collaborators and different ideas and so forth?
I'd say it was probably half and half. I mean, I knew I wanted to go a little edgier and harder on the second album, just a little bit more grit. The first album was very etheric and very, spacey and very dreamy. It does have a couple songs that are more rock on there, but I wanted the second album to just definitely be more potent and just in your face. And I think it also was to do with Fred, who I just mentioned, my collaborator, who's from France, and the drummer, Nico, who I was playing with, because they're both, just that dirty French, dance sound they bring. They love that, everybody knows that distinct.
It's like industrial sort of sound.
The Daft Punk meets Nine Inch Nails and all that. So they brought that kind of vibe in there, and it just kind of took a life on its own. So I think it went that direction naturally, and also because I wanted to, partly.
I just want a couple of questions about your videos. Look, the Auradrone videos are just amazing in their own right. I love watching the Auradrone videos, and one thing, when you look at them, they're almost like short films. And one of the things, one of the questions that sort of come to mind when you watch the Auradrone videos, and knowing your background, is do you kind of do it in reverse? Do you sometimes write your music to a visual image of how you see something visually, and sort of make a soundtrack to it? Because a lot of your videos are very story-like, and I was just curious to see during your writing and creative process whether or not you often start with a visual storyline and then turn that into music.
I think I write in metaphors and visuals a lot, lyrically. I know that for sure. Definitely have a theme in mind with the song, whether it's emotional or a sort of a storyline, but not in a traditional sense. More about an emotional arc storyline. So I tend to write a lot from emotion and colors, things like that. So I think the videos naturally kind of follow that progression. Because I'm such a visual person, I think it kind of does go hand in hand with what I do. So the videos it's almost like they make themselves in a strange way, like the Shadow video. I mean, the lyrics, I sat down with the director, Dan Zacharias, when we were trying to come up with a treatment for the video. And it was just okay, he's saying, here's the lyrics, this is kind of the metaphors going on, this is the imagery, and then we came up with this whole post-apocalyptic Illuminati sort of martial law meets aliens thing going on. So it was in the lyrics, definitely. But first of all, the song was not necessarily about that, but it definitely could lend itself to that.
Yeah. I just want to touch on some of the other things that you get involved in. I mean, obviously, actress, model, recording artist. There's not a lot that it sounds like you can't do, but you're also supporter of quite a few charities and causes around animal rights and bullying, etc. Can you? We'll obviously put links and so forth, so people can sort of follow what you're talking about. But I'm just interested in a couple of those things you get involved in as well.
Yes. I recently started working with this Heaven on Earth animal facility run by Seth MacFarlane's late mother, Perry, or it was in tribute to her. She originally founded it, and since she passed away, these other ladies have taken over, and it's an animal sanctuary for kittens and adult cats that are hard to adopt or just overlooked. So I've always had a soft spot in my heart for animals. I'm very much an animal lover. So I've gotten involved with them a little bit. I'm also doing work. I'm getting more involved with the cause of stopping the trophy hunting of endangered species. I feel very strongly about that. So that's something I'm looking more and more to get involved with, as well as anything to help women's rights all over the world.
Yeah.
There's an anti-bullying campaign I joined right around the holidays called Friends. It's a new film coming out. It's a documentary about bullying, and we're raising awareness about that because I think that's been kind of prevalent the last few years of the effects of that. And I think many creative people have gone through their own version of bullying growing up, so we all know how it can be painful.
Yeah, and it's only getting worse with the with the penetration of social media and the kids getting involved. Even younger, it's
absolutely
it's becoming a real issue now. So.
Yeah, we didn't have, when I was a kid, we didn't have people calling people out on Facebook where they can really do some damage and things like that. So either way, yeah, I'm glad to bring light in any way I can to a situation like that. So I'm very happy to be involved with something like this.
Yeah. And as I said, we'll make sure we put some links and so forth on the site so people can follow and have a look for themselves and see if they can help you out as well.
Fantastic.
Okay, just a few more questions for you. You write, sing, and play guitar, but I think what's not probably obvious to people is you also engineer and produce all your own collaborations. With your other collaborators with Auradrone, do you maybe in the future see yourself branching out into into producing and engineering for other artists as another form of of your expression? Yeah, absolutely. That's something I'm certainly interested in. Is I have this vision of maybe in a few years down the line of finding young bands that I think have a really great potential that or kind of came up the way I've had come up, completely independent, and I think there's so many talented people out there that just don't get in front of the record companies that are out there just honing their craft, and I'd love to help people like this out because they're truly the gems, So yeah, I'm definitely up for that. Beautiful segue into just talking about your journey, I suppose, of starting out as an independent artist and having the success that you've had. What do you sort of see as the biggest challenges and opportunities, I suppose, for independent artists in our industry today? Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think obviously the technology of the internet and the fact that you can put your music up on iTunes now without being signed to a major label and just distribute your own music worldwide is pretty huge. I mean, that they didn't have that many years ago, and so it was the old machine. But now I think it's the Wild West. It's like new territory, and I think it's very exciting because a band can come out of nowhere and just make it themselves, not having to go through the system. So that's a beautiful thing, to be able to put your own music out, make your own videos, get it up on YouTube alongside acts that are major acts, just aside. That's pretty amazing. I think the downfall of that is that there's so much content now that's the challenge, is getting heard and standing above the crowd. I know the cream rises to the top because obviously the fans always decide what they like. Yeah. And but I think so. That's why I think if you're good, people will recognize that. But I think it's sometimes the initial push of getting your work out there is a little more challenging when you don't have the marketing budgets of Sony Music or
Interscope Records or any of those guys. So I think it's great in many ways, but you have to be, as an artist, prepared to work harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just sit back in the studio anymore and write poetry and write lyrics and write guitar riffs all day.
Yeah.
Be engaging your fans on social media constantly and uploading content and creating content, and so it's a lot of work. I think it's you become more of an entrepreneur as well as a musician, but now you have to wear many hats.
Yeah, and it's it's in some ways it's a little bit full circle, because even though we've got the tools like social media, it's a fancy way for word of mouth, really. So, and you still got to, as you say, sort of get noticed, and getting noticed with everybody doing the same thing is quite hard. But it's also exciting. You look at something like Spotify, and you can see an independent artist pop up in a playlist after the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's really cool as well. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that fact. I think we're if you look us up, we're up next to Audio Slave or close to Audio Slave, so that's not bad.
Pretty good. Strategic band naming is what you're saying.
Strategic band name, exactly.
Hey, just in terms of this year, 2013, you're currently putting together your Auradrone show for 2013, and you're obviously doing some live dates and so forth. Is that going to be obviously that's going to take your attention while that's going on? But is that the primary focus for 2013, or do you have other plans bubbling away there?
Oh well, I think it's twofold. Definitely the live show. That was the end of. Well, I'd say the second half of last year was all prepping that. I mean, really getting the right players, and now we're just about there. We have our first show this Saturday. It's a big show in LA. It's going to be for about 1,000 people, so we're very excited. Yeah. And it's kind of like jumping into the deep end, but I'm ready. I've been missing performing for the fans so much, and that's one of my true loves is getting up there on stage and just doing shows and having that immediate reaction from an audience, and that's when you really can see how powerful music can be. It's so beautiful. So yeah, that's definitely a big focus this year, is getting Auradrone out and playing maybe on the East Coast for a bit, and I'd love to play some shows in Europe. Yeah. So that's for sure. But on top of that, I've already started the third album. I took a little break from writing the last half of last year. Now I'm about to dive back into it fully. So it's going to be both. I'm going to be concentrating on both, but it's good to stay busy. I love it.
Oh, excellent. Well, look, John, that's all the questions I had for you. So again, just want to thank you very much for your time and for sharing all that with us. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, Jason. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay.